Hello there, and welcome to the Rogue Podcast, a Star Wars show. Today, myself, CJ Jones, and John McKeeve are going to be breaking down the season 1 finale of the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 7, In the Name of Honor. We're going to just do a quick episode review. Later to follow will be a season recap and review, as well as some more short segmented videos instead of the regular hour and a half long show that we do. So, that being said, let's jump into it. Season 1 ended with what I would say a loud bang, but not necessarily the good kind. Myself and John and David got up at 1:45 Central Time, 2:45 John's
2:45 for me.
Did you ever sleep, John, before that point? So John stayed up all night to watch this, and we were so pumped, so excited to watch this episode, especially after the last two were so interesting and gripping. We were really expecting a lot out of this episode, but the more I think about it, the more I think we should have known that what we got today should have been coming. I guess let's just jump into it. So honestly, when it first started, a lot of things happened that I thought, okay, this is moving on. It's getting right into things. I mean, we find out about Grogu choosing the chainmail right away. We see Cad Bane right away walking up onto the Jabba's, or not Jabba's palace, to their, what do they call it, the sanctuary where they were staying. And I thought there was fortress. A lot of promising stuff to come. And I think that's kind of what happened with this episode. There was a lot of really cool moments and flashy things that happened. And I was like, that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. But as far as what it did for the story of the Book of Boba Fett, it really lacked for me. So I guess just your guys' first initial opinions of this episode. For me, some cool stuff happened, but I didn't feel like it rounded out the show really well, which I think comes from a general poor writing of this overall story in general for me.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of summed it up. It feels like a shell of what it could have been, and I am trying to do a good job of internally not relying on my expectations for what I think should have happened, and say, all right, just looking at the story and what actually happened, does this make sense? And I can't make sense of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's too many areas where I think, does that make sense? And I mean, we're not to those points yet, but it's
CJ,
it's kind of frustrating.
It is.
CJ,
you just finished it, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Like 10 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
20. I thought it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think it was average. I don't know.
It's out of 10. Out of 10. Like a 3.
Like a 3 max. I thought it was pretty atrocious.
The storytelling of it was bad, like legitimately bad. It had some exciting stuff. I would give it, last night when I first watched it, I was thinking like 6.5. I'd probably go down to 5 a little bit because of some things that it did. We'll get into some things that I thought were positive about it. But for the most part, I would agree. This was not good. This is the worst. How often do you see a finale of something be like the worst rated episode of a show? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, right now, to me, this was not my least favorite episode. Episode 3 for me was by far my least favorite. But right now on Rotten Tomatoes, it has 17 critic ratings and it's a 47%.
It went down 3% in the last.
Well, that just means that it was 8 and 8. So it had 8 fresh reviews, 8 rotten reviews, and now it's 8 fresh and 9 rotten. So that just means one more critic put in their review to make it 47. So I was disappointed. I mean, we were so excited for this, thinking that, the show really made a turn, because all 3 of us, and Dave's not here. He's got food poisoning, just so you guys know. So. Rip Dave. But we were all excited that the show had made a turn. But I think, to me, what had happened is this show is not good. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
The first 4 episodes had some good things happen, which we all consistently said, when is it going to reach its potential? And then they said, all right, let's see here. Episodes 5 and 6, we're going to give you a different show. And now in episode 7, we're going to bring you back to that show that you thought was okay. And we want you to be excited about it and care about it now, which to me, after episodes 5 and 6 and the content it brought in with Grogu and Luke and Ahsoka and Mando, like that was the most interesting and a gripping and part of the story I cared about the most. To come back to Boba Fett fighting for Mos Espa, honestly, I just couldn't make myself care. You know what I mean? It was just in the scheme of and I like a small scale story. Like not every story in Star Wars has to be saving the galaxy, you know? But to me, I didn't care about it anymore. I only really cared about what happened in episodes 5 and 6. Like I don't, if Boba wins Mos Espa and saves the people and is now leading Mos Espa, I don't really care. The only things that I really liked about this episode that had me invested was the fight scene with Mando and Boba. It was really solid. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was done well. It's choreographed well, but more than anything, it made me angry that it took us 7 episodes to get to that point.
Yeah.
I really liked seeing Cad Bane, but I wanted more of it. I didn't feel like they really handled him very well, especially after they handled him so well in the previous episode. Like I was like, oh, I mean, we were freaking out about Cad Bane episode 6, chapter 6. And then to have him come in and set up the battle, right? When he comes in and that whole dialogue between him and Boba was pretty awesome, honestly. And
alluding to some former interactions. I don't think they didn't explicitly allude to the potential duel or the former potential alleged duel, I guess is the way to
the
say
one
it.
that had been set up. Yeah, I don't know if they had even fought before. I don't know if we're gonna make that canon or not. I don't know if we can say that they even have.
I don't think so. Not from this interaction.
But I like,
but
he said, I've
like
known you for a long time. You know, that was one of my favorite lines. I've known you for a long time, Boba, and you're a cold-blooded killer. And you're pretty much like, it's like you're calling the kettle black. You know what I mean? Is one of the lines he said. I don't remember exactly what he said. But that banter back and forth, that was solid. And we had a lot of things that were good potential that the episode could have focused on and made really interesting. But to me, what the episode became was fight. And that's the story. Just go fight. And one of the biggest flaws for me was the lack of having a real antagonist. Like, I never really felt a threat of the big bad killing everybody.
I mean, yeah, even the Pikes are just there. They're not really a threat.
They're
only a threat,
something to
much
shoot
as
at.
As you push them.
Yeah.
If you push them, they'll push back, but they're not gonna.
And it just, we don't know. I didn't even know the Pikes' names. I didn't have like, oh, this guy's a great strategist. How are we going to defeat this guy? It was just, they have a lot of people and we're overwhelmed and now we have to kill them all. And I just didn't really feel that sense of urgency throughout the battle. Like, if you're going to have an entire episode be a battle, I mean, look at some of the great shows that have done something like that. Okay, for instance, the end of Lord of the Rings, right? Is just this amazing, huge battle. Shows end in the big pivotal battle, or movies, anything, all the time. But you've got to have that sense of urgency, finality, finally everything boiling together that you've been watching for a long time. But since things have been all over the place and we haven't really even spent that much time in Mos Espa, the vast majority of our show in the first 4 episodes was Boba Fett and the Sand People, right? So we haven't gotten this connection to Boba really trying to take over Mos Espa. In fact, I think most of us have not liked the way that story has gone because of what it has done to Boba, turning him soft. I mean, Cad Bane even says you're soft, and Boba's like, yep. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
it's, I guess, where do we want to start first? Do we want to maybe start with some, I mean, we kind of already said some of the things we liked about it, because I don't want to dog it completely.
Yeah, I mean, there were things here and there. I suppose we can kind of walk through it. So how'd you feel about the whole Grogu coming in right at the beginning?
They were trolling with the X-Wing. That was a total troll.
Do you think so?
Like, I mean, the only thing is Mando hadn't met Luke, so I guess Luke doesn't really have an obligation to face tell him.
Right.
But like, he's a Jedi. You think he would, or Grogu is a basically a Jedi the way Luke sees him.
Not anymore.
Why would he not want to see like firsthand to make sure he gets
Gets
where
there
he
safe?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he told R2 if the sight of anything dangerous, just light speed back to me because the X-Wings have that hyperdrive engine.
Yeah.
But I agree. It was just odd. Now, like, I would not, unless they had an equal foe for Luke to fight there, I wouldn't have wanted Luke in this episode because it would have just diminished Boba even more than the show already has.
I mean, would Luke showing up really change anything? I don't think Luke showing up would have changed any of the outcome except made it less of a Boba show. But
you just can't call the show a Book of Boba Fett if Luke just comes in.
I don't think you can anyways.
Yeah.
Nobody likes the Boba part. I mean, the Mando and Luke parts completely outshine the whole rest of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I don't want that to be what Star Wars is going forward. I want to be able to have stories that don't make all these other characters seem useless. You know what I mean? And if a Jedi is always coming in and saving the day for everything, like just like happened at the end of Mando season 2, then it's just going to seem like a gimmick kind of. So I'm glad Luke didn't come, and that we had to see regular people, finger quote, fight their own battle. So that part I was okay with. I guess I don't really like, but what I don't like about Grogu coming back right now is it makes Mando's goal in the first 2 episodes pointless. Like his whole journey was to bring Grogu to his people in season 2. And now if you go watch season 3 of The Mandalorian coming out this Christmas, it's going to be like end of season 2 of Mandalorian, Grogu returned to Luke. Yeah. Episode 3 of Mandalorian, or season 3 of Mandalorian, episode 1, Grogu already back with Mando. You know what I mean? It's just like we aren't going to have, that was one of the greatest parts of the show was the emotional part of seeing Mando have to say goodbye to Luke or to Grogu. And now it's like he doesn't have to deal with that and being separated. The whole that was one of the great parts of episodes or chapter 6 of Boba Fett is the decision and the pain between those two being separated, you know, like emotion is huge in Star Wars. And now that's gone. They're back together right away because they want to be able to have Grogu in there. I think honestly, the writers are like, we need to have Grogu in Mandalorian because people will watch it for Grogu and we can sell more toys. And they're just like, put them back in. We can't have them separated. So I was frustrated by that.
I think that I don't necessarily mind them getting back together, but
it's too early.
The decision, you have to show the process in more than like half an episode of Grogu, like having to like go find the Jedi. Like he had to meditate, you know, to connect Luke through the Force or whatever, so that he could find him. It's a whole 2-season arc that is down the toilet in 20 seconds. Yeah. And there's no explanation really as to why. You just know that he picked it, but it doesn't show. And it's hard because he doesn't talk.
Yeah.
So like he can't explain his rationale. You can't like see into his mind like the conflict. He's just kind of a puppet and he just pops back up again.
it is.
What has Grogu really even learned? I mean, like you said, CJ, we can't hear him talk, so we can't.
I think he's learned who he is.
Has he though?
I think
he learned who he's
like. That's
not.
the thing. We don't know. They don't really do a great job of showing that.
But like before,
maybe he's gotten a little bit stronger in the Force, and he's worked out a little bit, but that doesn't really show who he is.
I think his time with Luke, and it's off camera, which sucks, but I think it kind of has shown him, okay, I was a Jedi. I remember now who I was. I was a Jedi Padawan. I escaped Order 66. But now I have to choose. Do I want to go back on that path, or do I want to go to the life that I've lived the last however long he was with Mando? So I think he's choosing now who he wants to be, and he's chosen he wants the life with Mando instead. So he knows who he is as a person now and what he wants to become and who he wants to be. And he also knows that he has this amazing ability, the Force, and he knows how he can train that and hone that himself. Now, he can't do it as well as he would with Luke, but he clearly doesn't intend to stop using the Force. And now, instead of it just being this thing that overcomes him when he's put in situations of extreme danger or when those he cares about is put in extreme danger. You see him several times making choices to intentionally do this. So he's definitely more self-conscious of what he's able to do now. So, I mean, we've seen that little bit of progression. I think we're going to see him using the Force much more, which makes me think he's not going to be a traditional Jedi like we've seen in the past, but he's going to become this Mandalorian that still uses the Force, etc.
Yeah, I don't know. I think another issue with all of this too is that he's the child. He's Baby Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I don't know, how do you? He's not supposed to cognitively be there, I guess. So I don't know. Like, it's a lot for even all like that we just talked about. It kind of makes sense, but it's also like,
Does
I
he
think
know? Does he really
he
know
acts like a
that?
1-year-old
Yeah.
or like a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, he's motivated. He just chases food around.
Yeah.
That's half his like thing.
And he wanted to make a big friend.
I guess what
Yeah.
I'm saying
friend
is that
question.
I think that going forward, we're going to see that shift in him to start maturing and to start making more decisions that, because I think Luke has kind of trained him in that way. You know what I mean? And it's kind of opened his eyes a little bit as to what his potential is.
Maybe,
What-
yeah.
What we saw with him and Luke, though, all of that was introductory conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that's what we saw, I don't see him getting that much deeper.
Yeah, but he has a taste.
with
I don't
him.
know. I just feel like he kind of is going to be different going forward. All right, I don't want this to get too long, so let's move into a little bit more. So I'm trying to remember. It was so late last time. I'm trying to remember the order of things. Where did we go from there?
They're in the blown up bar.
Oh yeah,
And they're talking about,
Their
they don't
plans.
have the freedom fighters now
Mhm.
because Cad Bane comes and talks to Boba while he's in there while they're trying to figure out what to do. They decide not to leave because he doesn't want to look like he's running. And then he finds out that the Tuskens were killed by the Pikes.
That's right.
And not by the Speeders, which was the most telegraphed plot twist of all time.
And guess what he does about it? Guess what Boba does about that?
Nothing. Yeah.
He gets
I mean,
angry.
he didn't really have the time to, but
It was also Cad didn't do it. Like, it was the other guys.
And
so.
he wanted to. You could tell that he wanted to lash out in anger, but those around him talked him down, because if he had, he would have died. I mean, the opponents had the high ground, and if he would have engaged Cad Bane there's no way they escaped that. So, like, I understand that part, but to me, I didn't like that every decision Boba Fett made this episode, more or less, was made by somebody else. The decision to not fight Cad Bane, the decision to not go back to his palace, meaning staying in Mos Espa, was the decision of the biker gang. The decision to go out with a fight was Mandalorian's decision. And it was just like, Boba, do what you want. You're Boba freaking Fett. Do what you want. You know what I mean? And I just wish the writers would let him be the leader that he was trying to claim to be, without having everyone else make all these decisions for him. I mean, even the battle strategy was made by freaking Fennec Shan, and she talks about where they're placing everybody. I mean, I don't know. It was frustrating again to see Boba Fett handled this way, as just kind of someone who has to have
a figurehead.
Has to have all these people around him. So that was a little frustrating. But I did like the interaction with Cad Bane. I thought that went pretty well. And I like how he set up, we can figure this out here. I just like that portion of it. I even liked their idea of having people spread out across the city to protect the people instead of just leaving. That tactically made sense. You wouldn't want to just go to the palace where you could get bombed easily by just any kind of, it made sense to surround yourself.
That was about the only tactics that made sense.
The rest of the show made no military sense whatsoever.
It was so bad. Which
was so hard to watch. You just think you got to have some writers in there that know what they're doing. A lot of times when I watch these Star Wars shows, I feel like they do a really good job of writing and designing the episodes and making everything very cohesive. I have not been impressed. I don't know if Robert Rodriguez is the one that's actually writing these things, but I've not been impressed by his direction really at all.
No, I wasn't happy when I heard he was doing it. I've seen some of his other movies that are just kind of
cheese fests.
It's all about the spectacle. It's
Yes.
almost like a Michael Bay thing,
Yes.
but not
Not
explosions.
high budget.
no substance. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which makes me, I don't know. Did he just strike lightning with the tragedy episode in season 2?
Well, I mean, he wasn't doing it by himself. I think he had a much longer leash this time with the Book of Boba Fett. This was his project outside of the
He
2
also-
episodes that
Yeah.
were involving the Mandalorian.
I think with the Mandalorian, the tragedy one that he had in the Mandalorian, that was also mostly fighting. Like, it was a really cool episode, but
Yes.
it wasn't super like.
But that
story
episode
heavy.
was written by John and Filoni.
And that's what I was going to say. It
Yeah,
wasn't
and-
written by him.
Right.
But
Or at least the direction was given by them. And then he comes in and directs a director just says, here's what I'm given. I'm going to make it look good on screen. You know what I mean? But I feel like he was more or less like given a brief outline of what they wanted to be accomplished with the show. And then he kind of just went from there and took lead on this. And I didn't like the decisions he made. So
No.
again, we'll talk about the whole show more. But this specific episode, let's just get into the battles and whatnot. It starts off with the crime lords or the families that Boba had said that, they would stay neutral. Well, they lied. So the Trandoshans and the Aqualish, and who was the other one?
No,
Was it just those 2 families, I believe?
no, it was the dog.
no, there were 3.
The Clatoonians as
face.
well.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
the Clatoonians as well. So all 3 of those families turned on them and were fighting against the people that they thought they were protecting. I felt like that was done more or less well. Like the Bahir gang, they weren't like really used as soldiers. They were more so just kind of used as scouts, which was okay. I didn't hate that. I did like Black Chrysanthemum's usage in the episode. I felt like he was pretty boss. But his
He was weak
inconsistent.
sometimes.
Sometimes
yeah.
he was weak. It was really weird, like how he would go kind of nuts, and like the fact that he escaped from those Trandoshans when he was pinned down. Like he did some really awesome stuff, but we didn't get to see it. But then he would go like from these different ranges of health. Like at one point, I thought he was about to die, and then like 30 minutes later, he's sprinting throughout the town. Like what the heck?
Yeah, Boba has to go out there and like save him. He's
Yeah.
being shot to death, and he's limping.
And then he's just like running around
And
and
his
just
seconds
like,
later, he's
ankle
fine.
is clearly broken.
he gets shot in the legs like 12 times. It was kind of silly. But I don't know. You would think that with an episode like this, we would just be going on and on about how awesome the action was, but I still don't think they can quite get action right consistently with these shows. Like
I thought it was real bad.
it was bad. It felt like it was really old and cheap. You know what I mean? Like the blaster fire was just like blasters flying around the screen and hitting random things, and it didn't have like the impact that you would feel and the excitement that should be happening when you have all these characters doing amazing things. Outside of when Mando and Boba were right next to each other, it was pretty cool.
That was the highlight. Using their jetpack finally.
Which why is it taking 7 he uses jetpack in such cool ways as well. Like that one maneuver to get around the droid was awesome.
Oh yeah, that was the little boost. That's like
Why?
a
Why is
typical, like,
that?
RPG type? But it looks sick.
Why is that so hard to do consistently?
I thought that the first half of their fight was good, but I didn't understand why they just stopped flying and they stood in the
Stood
middle
there.
of the street
Yeah.
and just
No,
like
absolutely.
let them
Like
no
when are the
cover.
well, and the way they
Yeah,
use the
they just got
jetpacks.
shot.
Yes, the way they use the jetpacks is like enter or exit, except exiting when you need to get away.
Yeah.
Because like they fly up and they're like, yeah, jetpacks. And they come up and then just slowly lower. Why are you giving up the high ground? Fly around, make yourself a hard target, run into somebody. You can fly horizontally. It's not a jump pack like we see with like, you can literally fly. So fly. it was just frustrating.
I think they should have like flown onto the buildings and like shot down, and then you have them like using the missiles and constantly changing position. I think that would have been a much better scene than them like coming out strong and then like, all right, we're good now.
I mean, I know that
moment.
it's far more expensive. The more you animate that stuff, it's going to cost a lot of money. But like when you think about Iron Man and how he operates in the movies and his combat scenes, it's awesome. Essentially these guys should act as Iron Man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we just don't get to see that. And it's really hard and frustrating to see because all these situations are put in. You think of ways that they could be that we've seen in comic books. Like I can do more with Boba Fett in Battlefront 2 than Boba Fett does on the TV screen. You know what I mean? And it's just like I've created more cinematically satisfying scenes doing that. So it was just hard. It was hard to watch because you're not seeing the consistency of what these guys are capable of. So it was frustrating. It was. And then the whole, those droids, I think they're called Annihilators, the big boy droidicas.
Those are cool.
They were concept art for Attack of the Clones that was never used.
Oh.
I thought that was kind of cool that they brought that in. And I liked, that was probably the most, what's the word? The most tension that you felt throughout the battle. Because it was
when
really
they came
hard.
around the corner.
Yes,
and
that was
thought they
done
won.
At the beginning, yeah.
I would have liked that to have been like a person like Barriss Offee or something, or something like that. That's like a grand entrance, and you're like, oh my gosh, how are they going to defeat a Dark Jedi, or maybe Bosk and Cad Bane and IG-88 and whoever, Asajj Ventress, maybe they walk around the corner, and you're just like, holy crap, there's nothing that these guys can do now. They just thought they defeated the Pikes, and then here come these other heroes. Then we would have had an amazing
Kira or
anything
like Dawn.
It's just like, man, the potential was there, and the Star Wars community or the Star Wars writers and everything were just like, nah,
droids.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hate the droids. I thought they were fine. I thought it was really cool because it was you could not defeat them with infantry. So Boba's like, all right, I'll be back. And what he should have done a long time before this was say, I'm going to grab my slave one and just end this. I mean, at any point,
that makes too much sense.
It's so stupid because at any point he could just say, slave one, fly over and just annihilate everybody. But he's just
it's like he never did that before. So why would he think to do that now?
But he did.
I know
that's how he took out the swoop gang.
I know, sarcasm.
The swoop gang.
If only he did that. Yeah. I was just saying, if only he did something for people that actually didn't do anything to him.
Yeah, it's just it was frustrating to watch because I know we wanted to have that cool action with the jetpack and the missiles but like, at least give me some reason that he can't get the slave one. You know what I mean? Because he goes back to his palace.
Yeah,
and it says like the Rancor. How'd you guys feel about the Rancor? Did you like that?
It was cool.
I rolled my eyes.
You rolled your eyes, thought, come on.
No, it was more like, this is obvious, but you literally showed them for 20 seconds. And the only reason this is a surprise is because I forgot they were even in the show.
What, the Rancor?
Yeah, I forgot the Rancor was even there and that he had one. That was how insignificant it was early on. And then it shows up.
So true.
He has
Imagine
that.
We haven't seen Boba and talk in 3 episodes.
No, imagine if in a Boba show we get Boba learning how to ride a Rancor instead of.
It has to be a struggle.
No, all of a sudden he literally met the thing one time. It says he likes you, and now next thing you know, he's freaking writing it.
Yeah,
like I loved all the Luke stuff, but if we're talking in the frame of a Boba show.
I mean, essentially, you can get
Luke if this was get him training.
This was a 5-episode show. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7 is what this was. And the end of 6. So to me, if I were to watch the show again, I would not watch the Mando stuff and just see if I felt a little bit differently about it, because I honestly think 5 and 6 made 7 that much worse. Because we are 3 weeks separated from everything with the Tuskens, everything with Mos Espa. Like, we are not connected to Boba at this time. So like, everything just seems insignificant and we forgot about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%.
So the Rancor stuff was actually pretty cool to watch, the way it fought and everything. Like, we haven't seen something like that in Star Wars before.
I do agree with that.
So, I mean, I enjoyed that stuff. It was cool to see him writing it. And I enjoyed that.
The Rancor did fall prey to the poor tactics as well. Like, I can keep throwing this thing around, or I can just rip it in half.
Yeah.
And Boba should know that.
But is Boba actually making it rip? I mean, I think he's literally.
He's controlling its arm movement. He could.
Was he? I thought he just was holding on. It literally to me like
he could move the reins back and forth, which would kind of move his head and body.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, those were the highlights, right? I mean, the fighting and the action was the highlights, and I enjoyed that more or less. I did like seeing some of the bike gang get killed. That was nice. I wish
was
maybe some of
rewarding.
the main characters would have gotten knocked
Yeah,
off.
all of the faceless allies.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no one was lost.
Anyone
except the
without a British
Gamorreans dying.
accent.
I did get a little sad about the Gamorreans falling off the
Yeah.
cliff.
Like, what?
I was like, oh wow, they actually killed them. I was like,
Maybe they landed in a pool of water or something.
they'll be back season 2.
I don't know about that. Somehow they returned.
Somehow. But yeah, I don't know. It was underwhelming. It didn't deliver for me. And then the Cad Bane scene, I mean, that whole time, why was Cad Bane not doing anything? I'm going to wait until we're about to lose, and then I'm going to fight Boba one-on-one. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Why can I see Cad Bane like doing awesome stuff throughout that whole fight? It's not like he's hard to animate or anything. It's just a face and a human body. So why is he not involved? Like, he should have been fighting that whole time, and then maybe eventually they find themselves one-on-one in an alley. That would have been better, But all we get is him walking up to Boba at the end after the Rancor is gone, and they have a cool little talk, a lot of good back and forth. I really enjoyed their conversation. But then the fight was so short.
Not even the shortness of it. It was just
not good.
I thought it was weird.
It was.
The end of it and how
was bad.
Why didn't Cad would have known that he was gonna do that, and he would have probably shot him a lot sooner.
I mean,
I like how.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I like how Boba could be holding his gun, and Cad Bane is so fast that he can unholster it and shoot him like pinpoint between the armor, but he can't see Boba lying on his back, reach behind him to get the stick to knock away.
Yeah.
The gun. I didn't even notice that Boba had the stick. I thought it came out of thin air, honestly.
I kept looking, I rewounded, kept trying to look for it like throughout the other episodes to see if I could see it on him.
I think he only had it in this episode. I did notice.
No, I mean throughout the earlier in the episode, like, so he had it on him the whole time.
Yep.
Okay.
I saw it sticking out of his shoulder.
Okay.
The sharp part was, I believe the sharp part was sticking out the top, and the blunt part was at the bottom. So he pulled out the blunt part, knocked the gun out.
I mean, the motif, the theme of this whole show was that Boba was becoming part of a tribe and a family, right? And that's what had become important to him. It had originally started with the Tuskens, and then because of that, he started his own family in Mos Espa. So the fact that he killed him with the gaffy stick like that didn't bother me or anything, but it just didn't ring like I think it was supposed to, because it'd been so long removed from the Tuskens. Like we're so far
exactly.
past that.
Imagine if he kills the leader of the Pikes with the gaffy stick.
Would have delivered much better.
Something.
Yes.
Him killing Bane with a gaffy stick means nothing.
Yeah, it was kind of odd. And I just feel like Cad Bane deserved a better death too.
Some people are saying he's not actually dead, and his
they said his chest
were lighting up,
but that's a electronic thing. Like,
yeah, it's not. I don't think it's reading vitals per se.
Well, and he still could have been. I mean, you don't die instantly when you're stabbed. Like, you don't. Yeah, it takes time. So I mean, he could have been dying, and it's not like Boba's just gonna walk away and then everyone comes and grabs Cad Bane and like they heal him. Although I guess apparently that's what happened with Cad Bane. So who knows? Anyone could be alive in Star Wars, but it just wouldn't make sense for me for them to bring Cad Bane in and have him have this whole exchange just for him to still be alive. I mean, I hope he is, because I don't want that to be the way he died.
Yeah, definitely not.
Then it would just make that seem. I am not a fan of pivotal moments being important and then all of a sudden not being important anymore, just like the Grogu thing. And then we don't get to see Fennec Shand for most of the episode either, because she's off going to hunt down the head.
Doing Boba's job again.
Yeah. And she goes in. Now that was cool. I mean, probably the darkest stuff we had seen in the entire show.
Yeah, the hanging thing was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I enjoyed. That was a cool scene for her, because she's an assassin. That's what she does. She's not soft like Boba. Which is
Boba's not supposed to be.
I hate that sentence so much. But she goes in, assassinates all of them, and wipes them all out. So I enjoyed that part of it. But overall, as a whole, the episode just did not finalize the show. And I think more so is not the episode's fault so much as it is the previous.
Oh, definitely
4 episodes. Just it did not lead up to a point that it could have a good conclusion in 7 episodes. So they didn't
What I
build
said.
connection to the characters. They didn't build an emotional tie to Mos Espa. Like I didn't really give a rip about whether they won or lost. I just was looking for more cool stuff with the characters I cared about. So since we didn't really get a lot of that, the fight itself didn't carry a good story forward. So overall, very underwhelmed with the episode. I wouldn't say it was necessarily bad. It just was not as good as it could have nor should have been. And
How
that's just
about-
that episode alone?
How about Boba saying to Fennec, I don't know if I'm cut out for this, after he allegedly told Bane, I'm like, these are my people. First off, what has he done for these people, really? Nothing.
Decided they're his people. They have not
and
said
then
that.
he,
Yeah,
and
you're
then
our
he
guy.
ends the episode saying, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to lead the people?
And even
Like,
before,
what?
like he was going to be the crime lord that led Tatooine crime, right? But now at this point, he's said, I want to get rid of the spice trade because spice kills people. He has no desire to be a crime lord anymore. He doesn't want to do a bad, questionably be a bad thing ever again. He has 100% now become a hero. Is just not who I have ever thought Boba Fett to be. So I guess, do we just make we were going to make 2 separate videos about the episode and the show. Do you guys want to stop now with this episode and then move on to discussing?
I also wanted to say, I think using the Rancor as a further plot device made next to zero sense to me. Like the fight is over, and now the Rancor.
Oh yeah,
is,
and then they just like fight the Rancor for no reason.
Fight is the, it was like, what is going on?
The Rancor is all pissed off.
Like,
and
what?
They're all like, let's shoot it with blasters.
Did they not see Boba riding just let the Rancor do his thing? Like,
it'll calm down eventually, I guess. But
it
didn't make sense. But they wanted Grogu to come out and do something again
and cuddle with the Rancor.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hate that. It was fine.
That part was fine, but getting there was like, why can't? Because Boba might still be inexperienced. Why doesn't Boba ride the thing down?
Yeah,
and then he gets restless with the Rancor. The Rancor gets stirred up, and then Grogu has to come up and then Grogu and Boba can have a little moment too. And it's like,
well, Grogu saves Mando twice in this episode.
Mando is so dumb in the fight. Like
he just kept whacking the shield with the Darksaber too. Like it was so slow. Like whack.
Yeah.
Whack.
Yeah, it was
whack.
He was
I was just like,
too with the Darksaber and just kind of in general after his fighting with Boba.
I think again, this just becomes a Dave and John saying season 3 of Mando, we want him to be able to be trained how to use the Darksaber. We want him to learn how to do it. That's gonna be a big plot line for our show. So he still needs to suck with it and not really know how to use it. And so they're like, okay, but it wouldn't make sense for him not to pull it out at all in the entire thing. So like have him try to see, maybe this will pierce the shield. And that's how they decided to use it, because he never really got in hand-to-hand combat with any of the pikes or anything. So I think that's how that was written into the story. And it's just a shame that so many things happened like that throughout this episode. All right. I think that more or less recaps the episode. I wanted to create separate videos for the recap of the episode and the season, because I had different thoughts on the show than I do on just this episode alone. So this has been the Rogue Podcast. This has been a recap of the chapter 7 of the finale. Thank you guys so much for listening and or watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.